Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana Yashodanandana Vrajanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare
Okay, we're on. Hare Krishna. So Sri Brahma Samhita, Chapter 5 of 100 chapters of a larger work. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found at the Adikeshava temple in South India this Sri Brahma Samhita Chapter 5. According to Jiva Goswami, the whereabouts of the other 99 chapters is unknown. They're lost, which is not so uncommon. In his Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami identifies that of the 4 Vedas, some very tiny percentage is known today. Something in the range of 12-17%, like that. So, fortunately, according to Jiva Goswami, this chapter 5 is the essence of the entire work. Somebody asked last night, who wrote it? Well, it's not said who wrote it, because at the time that Lord Brahma presumably spoke it, there wasn't even something to write with. There wasn't anything. It was darkness in all directions, except for a lotus flower. At Lord Brahma's meditation on the mantras, the 2 mantras that he had received. That was the process that he followed. So, Who wrote it? Unknown. But we know Brahma spoke it, including the parts that we discussed last year at Thanksgiving time, the process of creation. He's speaking in some cases third person, as Brahma did this, but it's Brahma speaking. And we know that for sure. At the end, after these prayers, there's Krishna, Govinda, speaking to Lord Brahma before he begins the creation of the universe. How to not lose his Krishna consciousness was when he does his material duties. You know that one. Very practical instruction. How do you that balance question that people ask? How do you balance between spiritual and material? Anyway, so Krishna speaks directly. Govinda speaks directly. So please bear in mind as we're going through these prayers, Lord Brahma is seeing Krishna. Although it's darkness everywhere, he's seeing the spiritual world. He's seeing Goloka Vrindavan. He's fully, as the verse we read earlier, well acquainted with the ocean of truth. It's not speculative, perhaps, maybe. It might be like this. It seems to me that. Not like that. We're receiving realized knowledge from the original preceptor of our sampradaya. And the teachings, according to Bhagavad Gita, teachings are to be received in that way, in descending disciplic succession. So he's our original preceptor, and he's hearing Krishna's flute. He's meditating on the sound that came from his mouth after hearing Krishna's flute. He's engaged in this mantra chanting process. Could you put back the screen? Just a little comment about your camera. Your camera is up higher, and I'm down lower, so it looks like I'm, looking at the ground on the screen. I'm not. I'm looking at all of you, but the screen looks to the viewers out there in viewer land. I'm talking like this. I don't know what you can do about that, but you should give some thought to what to do about that. Reposition the camera or something. Okay, just see. Huh? So what's going to happen now? Oh. All right. One down, one to go. Extra bulb, okay. During the recess. All right. Technology's great when it works. It's really frustrating when it doesn't. So, as I shared yesterday evening, this conversation with this freshman at Washington University, that it is possible, in fact, it is what happens, those that are in touch with this highest possible consciousness that a soul can attain, it's possible. And what they experience, they can send messages to us through sound. And why not? We do it the other way around. We send signals from your little cell phone, zoom, zoom, and it hits a satellite or whatever technology is, and it bounces back. And they've got a receiver and comes over to your cell phone. Hello. And, we do it. So why realize souls can't do it? use your, stretch your imagination a little bit. And that's how it happens, and that's what we're doing. We're hearing messages from the spiritual world of what it's like. How confidential. How special. You don't have to I wonder, maybe it's like this. It's like this. So yesterday we discussed the first verse, the Paribhasha Sutra, that verse that governs the whole rest of the text. The whole rest of the text is illuminating and elucidating this one verse. And then we quickly covered the process of realization that Lord Brahma utilized, which we are to also utilize, except for the yantra part. The yantra, because that was the process that he used. We instead, by visualizing this abode of Krishna and chanting his mantra, the two things happen. He realized his own identity in his spiritual form, and he became well acquainted with the ocean of truth with a capital T. He realized, in the words that our acharyas have described, the topmost understandings of Krishna, Govinda, and his abode, and his form, and his loving dealings, and all the mysteries that you'd want to know about. He realized from the process of mantra chanting, and in his case, we don't utilize, Prabhupada never instructed that we should utilize. In fact, I asked Jananivas and Pankajangri, on your Nrsimha altar you have yantras. Is it part of the process? And it was an interesting kind of a no. They're there, just like, the altar is there and other items are there. In other words, they worship the Shalagram Shilas, they worship Lishringadev and Prahlad, and the yantras are there. It's the abode. It's depicting in a two-dimensional way. It's depicting the abode of Lord Nrsimhadev in Vaikuntha. And that's what the yantra is. And, the places where he goes and does what he does in Vaikuntha. That's what the Nrsimha yantra is. And so Brahma applied this process. Ours, more, is deity worship along with chanting of mantra. The Bhagavat Vidhi and the Panchratrika Vidhi, for those who have been around for a while know what those terms are. The process of hearing and chanting, and the process of deity worship, combining them parallel. Prabhupada calls the deity worship practical, not just theoretical. You use your senses in service of the master of the senses. And then there's so many other things that we engage in devotional service, bhakti, by using our senses, this temporary body, in the service of the master of the senses who has no temporary body. That's the linking process through the medium of our hearing. We do those two. So we hear the process of Brahma's realization, and then yesterday evening we heard the first verse, which was his description of the abode of Krishna. And we heard about Chintamani, that which the abode of Krishna is made of, not made of the five elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether. His abode is made of Chintamani. So it's not only, it fulfills your desires. Everything is fully conscious. It's Chinta. I mean, the land that you walk on, the water that you drink, that, everything is fully conscious. I mean, isn't that mind-blowing? Who can think that thought? Well, Brahma not only can think that thought, but he can experience and share with us. So it's beyond our little tiny brain, tiny mind's conception. It's inconceivable, but that's the spiritual world. Abode built with spiritual gems. There's kalpa vriksha. There's wish-fulfilling trees that can supply anything. Anything. Anything that your mind can think of, and even things your mind can't think of. Anything. That's the trees. And then the cows. Lakhs and lakhs. 1 lakh is 100,000. And lakhs, like innumerable. I mean, so there's some finite number, but innumerable. Too many to count. Lakshavratesu surabhir abhipalayantam. Lakshmi sahasrashata. And the goddesses of fortune, they're also uncountable. And that's the abode of Krishna. Just a little appreciation. Our acharyas have described these things, like, for example, the trees of Vrindavan. Just that topic, the trees of Vrindavan. There's a whole chapter in Vraja Riti Chintamani. It's a book by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Whole chapter just dedicated to describing the trees. And another name, some of you may know, Prabodhananda Saraswati. Prabodhananda Saraswati was the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the brother of Venkata Bhatta, who, after Lord Chaitanya spent the 4 months of the rainy season, he, who was a sannyasi, he gave initiation to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He came to Vrindavan and lived in Vrindavan. Many of you who have been to Vrindavan, you know where is Kaliagat. He lived by Kaliagat. There's a little place, little shrine, where his samadhi is, and so although he's a South Indian Sri Vaishnava, he's writing these beautiful prayers describing Vrindavan. And there's a whole chapter dedicated to trees. And it's amazing what these devotees are describing, these acharyas are describing about the trees. And then a whole long section about the cows. And, the abode of Krishna is beyond our imagination. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, he writes, that in Vrindavan, there's this original Kalpavriksha tree, like Mama Kalpavriksha. And from all the other trees associating with this one tree, they also become Kalpavriksha trees. Because that's how it works. Through association, one becomes qualified. And so this Kalpavriksha tree not only empowers the others, so they fulfill all desires. And it describes what they look like. And, it's amazing. Anyway, that's the abode of Krishna. And then this morning, we're going to be discussing what Brahma says about the form of Krishna. If you remember back from the first verse, Satchit Ananda Vigraha, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. So the Ananda Vigraha from the first message is now going to be expanded here, and then again, 3 more times to illuminate the Paribhasha Sutra. Just some appreciation of the composition, the artistry of the composition. Okay, so let us hope the audio works, and we'll chant together verse 30. This is the second. I'll make a note right now. This verse speaks of Krishna's flute, and the next verse speaks of Krishna's flute. Hint, Krishna's flute is really important. As he likes cows, he likes his flute. But it's not like the cows aren't ordinary cows. The flute's not an ordinary flute. We'll hear something about Krishna's flute. Oops. Translation. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. We'll start with an explanation of mantra upasana. Some of you who are with us from last year, you'll recall from text 3 of Brahma Samhita. This is text 30. Text 3 discussed the process of mantra upasana. And I'll just refresh your memory if you were here last year, and if you're hearing this for the first time, that's fine too. We know the meaning of mantra. Mantra, mind releasing or mind delivering sound. So the material conceptions that we're holding on to, you can let go of those material conceptions through mantra, and then you can be receptive for a spiritual conception. Don't use mantra and try to appreciate something that's not material when you're holding on to something, a material conception. It's not going to go in. It's going to bounce. You'll find a reason why, well, it can't be like that. Or just not even think any thought other than a material thought. So mantra is liberating. It releases us from the grip the mind has on material conceptions, because the mind carries conceptions, according to Bhagavad Gita. Just as the air carries aroma, mind carries conceptions. And to release the mind, release the mind from material conceptions through the process of worship via a mantra or through a mantra. And upasana means worship. So what Jiva Goswami describes, this is review. Mantra upasana is a process that he compares to a lake. One may be walking along the land and come to a lake, and the mantra is like a lake. It's a particular pastime. just like all around the room, there's pastimes of, looks like mainly pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. So it's a picture through mantra. The painting is painting and the mantra is sound. So through sound, one pastime of Krishna or a part of a pastime of Krishna is depicted. Or a feature of Krishna's form is depicted through sound. And one worships Krishna through that sound, and it's like entering into the lake. One can realize Krishna or that particular pastime of Krishna through the process, mantra upasana process. And that lake, he goes on, is sometimes connected to a river, water flowing in, water flowing out. You enter the lake, then you can get into this flowing river, not just stationary lake. And that flowing river is the moving pastimes of Krishna. One pastime flows into the next pastime, flows into the next pastime, and the mature stage of this mantra upasana process is one can enter into Krishna's pastimes. Obviously not with your body, but the soul and consciousness of the soul can be with Krishna as he performs his pastimes. Very elevated. According to Jiva Goswami, when he made his commentary on this verse, and in Krishna Sandarbha on the first mantra that Brahma received, the Gopal mantra, remember from yesterday evening, that mantra that he received from the goddess Saraswati, the internal potency of Krishna, that Gopal mantra, that was a mantra upasana process. And then later Brahma, matured and became very competent in the Svarasaki process. So Jiva Goswami writes, even today in Vrindavan, I don't know about the year 2014 in Vrindavan, but during Jiva Goswami's time, in Vrindavan, there are persons who have perfected that process. Both. And my dear devotees, we're being engaged in the same process. We have the same opportunity. We may not have very much qualification, admittedly. But the mercy that's being showered upon us is amazing. Just visualize a pastime of Krishna by chanting a mantra. And these are pastimes that we'll hear something more about: manifest, unmanifest, prakat, aprakat, lila. One can enter into Krishna's aprakat lila and enjoy pastimes with him. In fact, this is where the writings of our Goswamis come from. It's not imaginative. Some of you are familiar with the pearl pastime, Mukta Charita. Yes? Question: is Raghunath Das Goswami, who is like renunciation personified, is he interested in fiction? Just making up stories like, Harry Potter? And, a whole long la-da-da-da-da. That's not Raghunath Das Goswami. But by this process, he reveals a pastime that's just amazing. It's not fanciful. Or there's so many. Mother Janava, the wife of Lord Nityananda, when she was just chanting japa, as we may do at Radhakund, she was just chanting japa. And she saw Krishna's pastime. She described. She saw a bridge over Radhakund, and Radha and Krishna were on the bridge over Radhakund. And she described the pastimes they were performing. I've never seen a bridge over Radhakund, but Janama could see a bridge. You get the idea. And we're being given this same opportunity. Those who are not qualified, all of us, can become qualified. All of us, any one of us. What does it take? It takes the descending mercy and a nice quantity of eagerness to receive the mercy. That's what it takes. Two elements: descending mercy and eagerness to receive the mercy. So here's what Jiva Goswami writes, hopefully, yes, in his Krishna Sandarbha about mantra upasana process, and he's identifying not only this Krishna mantra, the one, or Gopal mantra that we heard about in verse 3 and verse 24. We saw the pictures of it depicted in the yantra. He's describing specifically about this verse, text 30. So we're also right in Brahma Samhita. By what we're doing today, we're being engaged in the mantra upasana process. Here's what he writes. The mantra upasana stage of realization may be compared to a series of lakes within the Ganges River of Swarasaki realization. In the mantropasana stage, one hears about Lord Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, and the residents of Brajabhumi, whereas in the Swarasaki stage, one is able to directly see Lord Krishna and his associates. From this we may understand that the Swarasaki stage is very elevated and difficult to achieve. I like this last sentence. The most confidential matters are understandable in that Swarasaki stage of realization. So our acharyas, some of them, have attained that, and their commentaries are from that platform. Like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes, Krishna's thinking was like this. And he describes what Krishna's thoughts are. It's not imaginative. It's not, like he had some kind of mind-reading power or something like. He's in touch with the internal potency. And we're being given the same opportunity. So as we go along, you'll see this mantra upasana image again on the screen. And I'd like all of you to listen with that idea. Remember from yesterday, enter into the spirit of this hymn. So I'm going to, at the end, review the different pieces or parts of this mantra, because according to Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas, when you chant mantra, you should simultaneously hear the sound or meditate upon the meaning of the mantra. If it's these Gayatri mantras, you don't say aloud. In Brahma Samhita, you say aloud. And enter into the mood, the feeling of the mantra. So this is a rehearsal. And then we'll do the performance at the end of this mantra. There's the first mantra. Again, this is the mantra that's described in text 3, then again in text 24. It's a depiction of Krishna's abode, with Radha and Krishna in the middle, and you see the tree, the desire tree behind them. That's the spiritual world, that's the original Kalpavriksha tree. And the different elements, 6-sided mantra, or the hexagonal mantra within the yantra. So that's a mantra upasana type, and so is text 30, and according to Jiva Goswami, text 32. So now we're going to go into the elements of the verse, text 30. Those of you that have read Nectar Devotion, you know that Rupa Goswami says, he writes, There are 64 principal characteristics or qualities of Krishna, and amongst them, 4 are exclusively found in Krishna's feature in Vrindavan, or Govinda, because that's what we're speaking about in Brahma Samhita. And the forms of Vishnu or Narayana in Vaikuntha, etc., they don't have these 4. They have 60, but not these. 4 are uniquely possessed by Krishna. Here's the 4. He is the performer of wonderful varieties of pastimes. This is directly quoting Nectar Devotion, especially his childhood pastimes. Then, he is surrounded by devotees endowed with wonderful love of Godhead. Remember from yesterday, the cows love Krishna and Krishna loves the cows, but everything and everyone in Vrindavan, they have the same love for Krishna, of different varieties of love, but most amazing, wonderful love for Krishna. That's a quality of Krishna. Then, he can attract all living entities all over the universes, plural, by playing on his flute. We'll hear something about that in the next verse, as well as this verse. That all over the universes, Krishna's flute playing is stunning living entities. And the final, the 4th, is he has wonderful excellence of beauty, which cannot be rivaled anywhere in the creation. So note that the first 2 are highlighted in blue, and the bottom 2 are highlighted in red. So, according to Bhakti Siddhanta, this text 30 is dealing with the form of Krishna. So that's number 4, his beauty. And then his pastimes is in text 31. That's the first 2. And both of them speak about Krishna's flute. You see what's going on here? The udipan, the stimulations for ecstatic love, are being given by Lord Brahma in these prayers. Those of you that know Nectar Devotion. To awaken the soul within the body has love of God dormant, like a seed stores a tree or a plant or whatever seeds are the seed of. So the soul has the seed of love of God, the topmost stage of love of God. And what's the fructification or awakening of that? There's udipans, or that which stimulates ecstatic love, the kind of love that's in Vrindavan, ecstatic love, spontaneous love. And these features, these 4 especially, stimulate that and the details of them. So that's what Brahma is doing, and we'll be exploring some of that. So may your ecstatic love for Krishna be stimulated by association with Brahma Samhita. So there's this Krishna's matchless beauty, that's text 30, and these 2 subparts. Krishna's lotus eyes are described or mentioned. Krishna's bodily hue is mentioned in this verse, text 30. And then, as well, Krishna's flute playing. So that's the elements I'm going to remind you. At the end, this is rehearsal, and then we're going to perform mantra upasana. So listen with that thought in mind. Venum Kanvantam, this is Krishna's carrying his flute, taken from Nectar Devotion. Krishna doesn't just have a flute. He's got lots of flutes, and varieties of flutes, and there's different names for those varieties of flutes. This one is mentioned Venu. Venu is very small, not more than 6 inches long, with 6 holes. Murali is about 18 inches with a hole at the end and 4 holes in the body of the flute. And Vangshi flute is about 15 inches long with 9 holes. But that's not all the variety that Krishna has. He's got much more variety. Krishna has a longer Vangshi, which is called Mahananda. And we're going to hear the difference between Mahananda and Sammohini. Is it okay? Is everything all right? Okay. When it is still longer, it is Akarshani. When it's even longer, it is called Anandi. The Anandi flute is very pleasing. The cowherd boys, they like that one especially. And they have their little private name, Vangshuli. These flutes were sometimes bedecked with jewels. Sometimes they were made of marble. Sometimes of hollow bamboo. When the flute is made of jewels, imagine a flute made of jewels, not like with jewel, but made of jewels. Sammohini. When it is made of gold, it is called Akarshani. But the sound of Krishna's flute, besides, the varieties, Krishna's flute is amazing. There's a book that Shivaram Maharaj has written called Venu Gita. It's like this thick, just about Krishna's flute. There's a lot to say about Krishna's flute. We're just going to say a little. One of my favorite places in Vrindavan, everyone has their favorite places in Vrindavan. One of mine is Ter Kadamba. Kadamba is a type of tree with nice kadamba flowers. And there's a grove of kadamba trees, that's why it's Ter Kadamba. And it's very close to where Krishna lived with Nanda Maharaj at Nandagram. And as Krishna was coming back from the days taking care of the cows, he would climb one of the kadamba trees to the very top of the kadamba tree and play upon his flute. And when he was playing upon his flute, he'd be calling the cows. So his flute didn't just make this nice, musical sound. His flute can make other kinds of sounds. Because he can do whatever he wants. So he was calling the groups of cows. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes in detail. There are 108 groups. There are 900,000 cows, and they were grouped. They're grouped. 100 of them were grouped according to color, 4 colors. And Krishna would call 100 names of the groups, and he lists the names of the groups. It's a very long paragraph, a long description. He would call their name. Imagine if you were a cow and Krishna called your name. What would you feel? Their ears were perked, waiting for Krishna to, every day he would call their name. And they'd go, you ever seen cows run? They would run because Krishna was calling their name. It's very detailed. And then the other 8 were very special. One of the 8 is called Mridanga Mukhi. Mukhi means face, and there's a mridanga, this 2-ended drum. So they had faces shaped like mridangas. Krishna called their group. There was a Simha Mukhi, cows that had faces that looked like lions. And like this. So Krishna's flute, he would sometimes play upon his flute by the river Jamuna, and the river Jamuna would stop, stunned. things that were moving would stop. Things that were not moving would move. The birds that would fly in the air, they were stunned, and they would fall to the ground, stunned. The river Jamuna would stop. Krishna's nearby. Maybe he will come and some of the dust from Krishna's feet will fall in my water. She was motionless, waiting for that. And then Krishna would take advantage. Not only would become motionless, sometimes it would become hard, so the cowherd boys could walk across the river Jamuna to the other side. Sometimes, this is our Acharyas describing, sometimes Krishna would transform his flute into a boat so that the cowherd boys could cross to the other side of a river. Sometimes when it was very hot and dry, Krishna would play upon his flute and part of a hill would melt and water would come down the side of a hill just from the sound of Krishna's flute. Inconceivable. So Krishna wasn't just like, a classical flutist. Not that. Otherworldly, inconceivable capacity of Krishna's flute playing. We'll hear some more as we go further. Venum convantam. Krishna's capacity is attracting all living entities. The foremost attracted by Krishna's flute that we hear regularly about is the gopis. You can see in the painting in the left-hand side, there's Krishna playing on his flute at Vangsi Vat. Vangsi is one of Krishna's flutes, and Vat means a banyan tree. So there's a place in Vrindavan where Krishna would go beneath a banyan tree, and he would call the gopis with his flute. But it's described, it wasn't just like, oh, that's a charming sound, let's go. Forcibly it would carry them. Because their love for Krishna was such that when they heard Krishna's flute, they were forcibly moved by the sound of Krishna's flute. And literally, they would become transcendentally mad by the sound of Krishna's flute. And so many paintings, beautiful paintings of Krishna with his flute. Sometimes the gopis were envious of Krishna's flute because the flute was always tasting the lips of Krishna. And so they would criticize the flute. They would say, sometimes they would praise, what austerities this flute must have undergone to become tasting of Krishna's lips. Then sometimes they become angry and say, a flute is a male. And how come a male is tasting Krishna's lips? This isn't right. And they would sometimes steal Krishna's flute. And they'd pass it on to another gopi, and then to another gopi, and to another gopi. And Krishna was attached to his flute, and he's running here and there looking for his flute. Of course, he's omniscient, Supreme Lord. This is Leela. Beautiful paintings of Krishna and his flute playing. Charming millions of cupids. And Aravinda, his eyes were lotus-shaped, with blooming eyes like lotus petals. Very common metaphor, eyes like lotus petals. Blooming eyes like lotus petals. Aravinda Dalaya Taksham. And, of course, the deity form of Krishna shows this. Paintings also show the lotus eyes of Krishna. So, a reminder, this is rehearsal. It's not just information. I'm inviting you to enter into the mantra upasana process. So take away your college, university, bhav hat, and put into the devotional hat or mood, or open your heart this way, because we're learning from Lord Brahma how to do the mantra upasana process. So, Venum Kanvantam, Aravinda Dalaya Taksham, Barhavatamsam. This is, Barhavatamsam indicates head decked with peacock feather. Krishna likes peacocks in addition to cows. They're very colorful, and they like Krishna too. So Krishna wears peacock feather. Always. And the deity outfits in Vrindavan. There's a very famous one, very, very much loved one. This is Radha Shamasundar in Vrindavan. And a close-up of Shamasundar, just simply peacock feathers. And not to be outdone, there's Krishna Balaram in similar, their peacock dress. But whether in the deity form or Krishna's actual pastimes, we always find peacocks in Vrindavan, and Krishna decorating himself with peacock's feather. And Asitam Buddha Sundarangam. Sound is not working. There's supposed to be the sound of thunder. Oh, that's too bad. Don't know what happened over there. Monsoon season. The beauty of Krishna includes a body whose hue or color is like that of a fresh monsoon cloud. What's up? Now, Prabhupada would sometimes speak about, the color black may not be thought of as especially attractive, but there's a great acharya amongst our acharyas whose name is Raghava Goswami, or Raghava Pandit. Some of you may know of Raghava Pandit from Govardhan Parikrama. Those who have done Govardhan Parikrama, when you go all the way down to the very bottom, the southernmost part of Govardhan Hill, there's Lota Baba, that deity. And then right in that vicinity is where Raghava Pandit stayed. He stayed in a cave so he could chant with, he didn't have what we have, these, sound things you put on your ears. You can't hear anything. So he just was in a cave and would chant his japa in a cave. And in Bhakti Ratnakar, it's described that the detail of his Vrindavan Parikrama, where he took two of Jiva Goswami's students throughout the whole of Vrindavan, described the pastimes in the whole of Vrindavan. Raghava Pandit was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya, younger, and a great acharya. So he wrote a book, Sri Hari Bhakti Ratna Ratna means jewel. The jewel of devotion to Hari, manifest, prakash. So there he asks the question and then answers the question, why is Krishna blackish or shama? Why is it that the form of the personality of Godhead, which he manifests only by his own wish, and which is made of the sweetness of transcendental pastimes, is famous everywhere for its dark complexion? His name is Shama Sundara. Shama is blackish and Sundara is beautiful. So he answers, he eternally manifests the color Shama, within which all colors rest. So like Krishna is the source of everything, and you take colors and mix colors together. Maybe you did this when you were little. Maybe the kids have done it recently. You take paints and mix this color, the other color, and stir them all together. What do you get? Black. But it's not exactly like pitch black. It's kind of like this muddy black, right? Because that's the color of all colors. As Krishna is the source of everything, he's the source of all colors. So he's Shama. But then he ends, his complexion is not the material color, black. Just like the cows of Vrindavan, they're Surabhi cows. They're not like cows here. Like this freshman at Washington University was saying, no, not cows like this. Right, it's not cows like this. It's Surabhi cows. And flutes, not like flutes here. Krishna has another variety of flutes, altogether different. And his color is not like, somebody might have a black sweatshirt on or something. Not like that. Transcendental, reservoir of all color, Shama. And then the next line, Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. I'm going to remind you again, this is practice for mantra upasana at the end. So please remember. We'll recite the verse again and remember. Part of visual is helping us to remember what the word meanings are. Krishna's unique loveliness, charming millions of cupids. So, who's Cupid? God of love. Valentine's Day. If you're American. So, Cupid, he's a personality in the heavenly planets, and he has this little bow and arrow thing, and she sees him, he sees her, woo, woo, woo. There goes the arrow. They fall in love, struck by the arrow of Cupid. But the loveliness of Krishna charms millions of cupids, as Cupid charms everybody. I mean, this insect and that insect get hit by the Cupid's arrow. Whoa, look at her. Oh, look at him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's this description of Indra becoming worried that the austerities of Narayan were so severe. Maybe they have a plan to take over my kingdom. So to stop that, he sent Cupid on a mission. Go hit Narayan with one of your arrows and take with you some of the most beautiful damsels of the heavenly region. Go, Cupid, go. So he came. They went to the abode or the ashram of Narayan. Narayan immediately, they understood. Narayana stepped forward. You see, Nara is in the background. Narayana stepped forward and stood in his threefold bending position, and exhibited unlimited numbers of goddesses of fortune whose beauty was thousands and thousands of times more than any one of the damsels of Vrindavan. And when Cupid saw that, he dropped his bow. He was charmed by the beauty of Narayana and the goddesses of fortune. He disclosed the whole mission, apologized profusely. Narayana smiled and said, "I knew. That's why I did this." So his unique loveliness is charming millions of cupids. And it's not just Krishna charms Cupid. Not just Krishna charms the gopis. Krishna charms everyone. His unique loveliness. Again, mantra upasana. Kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham. Krishna is so attractive, he even attracts Krishna. This is a painting of a pastime that's described where Krishna saw his reflection in the marble. And Vidagdha Madhava by Rupa Goswami, he saw that reflection and thought, look at this beautiful personality. Who is this? I would love to have a loving relationship with this personality. But of course, foremost, amongst all those who are attracted by Krishna's unique loveliness is the gopis. Very nice painting of the gopis, just seeing Krishna. They're embracing a tamal tree, because a tamal tree is blackish. And so they're fulfilling their heart to some degree by embracing the tamal tree. Here's Krishna returning from his day taking care of the cows with the cowherd boys following behind him. And the young gopis, the one with the crown on, guess who that is? Radharani, the queen of Vrindavan. And Krishna's unique loveliness is, you can see by the expressions, charming them. Not with, this mundane boy-girl thing is a mundane thing. The charming of the residents of Vrindavan have no material lust or material attraction of any kind whatsoever. It's pure love. Okay, you ready for the exam at the end of the class, the mantra upasana process. Those of you that have your books, if you don't know the verse, you can pull your book out. Let's see. Krishna, Krishna. Okay. So not just say the verse, but meditate on the meaning, and as Prabhupada said, enter into the spirit of this hymn as a regular daily function. Let's chant the verse together. Venum kanvantam aravinda dalaya taksham barhavatam sam asitam buddha sundarangam kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. If we do what Prabhupada instructed us to do, that would be nice to do what Prabhupada instructed us to do, we will be engaging in the mantra upasana process, which, if done sincerely and regularly, one can then visualize Krishna. Not imaginatively, one can visualize Krishna. And in particular pastimes. It appears in the heart. Bhaktisiddhanta's language calls this swarasaki, a jubilation of the heart. So the pastimes of Krishna in the more mature stage may appear in your heart, and not only appear in your heart, but you participate in them in your particular rasa. Amazing. That's what we're being given the opportunity for. So, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Now we're ready for verse 31. And so just as a review, this is the third of this first group of verses. The first group of verses is describing Krishna's abode. And then the next one is Krishna's form. And this one is Krishna's pastimes. At least the emphasis goes upon Krishna's pastimes. Now, is the sound going to work from my computer, or do I need the microphone? It'll work? Let's see. And now the translation. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels, this is Bhaktisiddhanta's language, relishes, enjoys, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyamasundara is eternally manifest. So that's the meditation for this mantra. And special emphasis is going to the pastimes, most prominent or famous everywhere of Krishna's pastimes is Krishna's rasa dance. And this verse, text 31, is going to be further expanded in greater detail in text 37. So we're not going to discuss so much the detail of the pastimes, but at least the understanding of how the pastimes take place. So, Alola Chandra Kala Sadvaryam Malya Vangshi Ratnangadam. This is this Chandraka. Chandra means moon. So, Bhaktisiddhanta has called it a moon locket. He has some kind of a chain or a necklace. He has a stone that shines like the moon shines. How'd you like to have one of those? If you can become Krishna, you can have one of those. That's not possible. We just like Krishna to have one of those. On your left, that's the Govinda deity in New York, Radha Govinda. On the right, this is Radha Madhava, who also is decorated with nice garlands. One of the many wonderful attributes of our temple president in New York, Ramabhadra, is he loves decorating Radha Govinda. And one of the biggest items in the budget of the temple is flowers. He loves having exquisite, fragrant, colorful, it says it's meditation. He meditates on the outfits. He personally designs the outfits. He goes to Vrindavan and arranges with the best of the outfit makers. You make this one, you make that one. He buys the cloth. He orders the flowers. He's absorbed in what this verse is describing. Alo la chandra, there's no moon locket though. And then pranaya keli kala vilasam means he revels in pastimes of love. Keli means pastimes. Pranaya keli kala vilasam. So I'm going to share a little different, some of the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. This one is a painting of a pastime of Krishna that takes place near Govardhan Hill. On the side of Govardhan Hill is a very beautiful architecture called Kusum Sarovar. The place is Kusum Sarovar. Sarovar means lake, and Kusum is like a type of a lotus. So a lake of lotuses. So now there's an architecture. One king constructed it some time ago, but it's in a place where Radha and Krishna performed the pastime that I'm going to narrate at Kusum Sarovar. So the pastime has to do with an annual event that took place during Krishna's time, and it still takes place every year, a festival. Different days, there's special festivals. So during a time of the year after the rainy season, there's so many flowers. So in the home or the area of Srimati Radharani at Varsana, they have a festival, a Janji festival. And the Janji festival is all the young girls in Varsana, they have the opportunity to go out during the day, gather flowers, and decorate the doorway of their home with some floral arrangement. And then in the evening, the elders come along and judge who did the best floral arrangement. And then someone wins a prize. Girl is honored. But you can imagine what a beautiful festival that is. Some places in America, they have some contests like that about Christmas decorations. Do you have that here in Seattle? You don't know. Some neighborhoods. So people deck their homes out with all the whatever they do, and somebody comes along. So this is honoring not Santa Claus and the reindeer, but it's honoring the natural beauty of Vrindavan. So on the morning of Janji festival, Radha and the gopis, they went really early in the morning to one of their best places for getting flowers was Kusum Sarovar, because there was a champak grove. Champak is a type of tree, beautiful yellow flowers, and many, many other flowers just like you see. So Radha and the gopis, early in the morning, went to Kusum Sarovar and began gathering flowers. Krishna's parrot was spying to find out what the gopis were doing. And his parrot came and landed on Krishna's windowsill and told Krishna, this morning, Janji festival day, they're going to Kusum Sarovar. Krishna was very happy. He knew he made a plan, like a flash. He stayed in bed instead of getting up in the morning, and was holding his stomach and moaning and groaning. Oh. And Mother Jasoda came to his room saying, "What's matter, Gopal? What happened?" "Oh, I don't feel so good." "Get a doctor, quick." The doctor came, couldn't find anything wrong with him, but recommended he should stay home today, shouldn't go and herd the cows. So Mother Jasoda said, "That's okay, Balaram, you're his elder brother, you know how to take care of the cows. You go with the cow herd boys and you take care of the cows." And Balaram understood Krishna's got a plan. So the cowherd boys left with the cows. After everyone had gone, the scene was quiet. Krishna threw off the cover and jumped out of bed and got on his disguise of a gardener and went, guess where? Kusum Sarovar. And as Srimati Radharani was gathering flowers, normally she would have more flowers in her basket than all the other gopis combined. She's expert at everything. But Krishna, at a distance, he was watching, and her cloth, her sari, got caught in a thorn bush. So she was trying to remove the thorn. And then as she was trying to remove the thorn, another part of her sari got caught, another part of her sari got caught. So the gardener, seeing her in distress, she called out to the gopis, "Lalita, Vishaka, come help." But she was so far away they didn't hear. So the gardener came and released her cloth from the thorn, and then the other thorn and the other thorn. And she was so thankful. She said, "How did you know I was in this difficulty, and who are you?" He said, "My name is Vanamali." Vana means forest, and Mali, the gardener. Vanamali. My name is Vanamali. I'm a servant of the king. I look after the king's gardens. And I was attending to my duties and saw you in distress, and so I came to help you, but I have to go now. I have many duties. So Krishna left. And Radharani was in a daze, having seen Krishna. Of course, the Leela was, she didn't recognize it was Krishna. She thought it was Vanamali. And just wandering around, she even forgot to pick flowers. And later the gopis found Radharani and saw Radharani's basket was nearly empty. And they asked, "What happened?" And she explained what happened and said, "I don't know what it is, but my mind is just attracted to that gardener. I don't know who that person is." And she said, "Well, time is passing and we have to go back and start our decorations. So we'll give you some of our flowers." So they're making their plan to go back to Varsana. And then comes the gardener. And the gardener says, "Look at this. You're thieves. I'm the gardener of the king, and I've always wondered who is it that's stealing the king's flowers. You're in big trouble." And he took his stick and hit the bottom of their baskets, and all the flowers went flying in all directions. And the gopis were very angry. "Look what you've done." And all together they pounced on the gardener. But as they grabbed the gardener, they felt this stick in the back of his belt, and it was Krishna's flute. So they understood, "You're not Vanamali, you're Van Bihari." Bihari means the enjoyer of pastimes. "And look what you've done. You've spoiled all the flowers. The flowers have fallen to the ground. And how are we going to use the flowers for decoration in the Janji festival?" Well, Krishna said, "Don't worry. I'll take them to the river Jamuna, wash them and bring them back. I can do it very quickly." They said, "The river Jamuna is so far away. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" Krishna said, "I'll solve the problem." He took his flute and stuck his flute into the ground and made a big depression just with his flute. He has a very versatile flute. And then filled up the depression with celestial water and washed all the flowers and gave the flowers back and said, now you can go and do your decoration. He said, well, we can do our decoration, but you've offended Srimati Radharani and you should be punished. And so Krishna agreed that he would decorate Radharani with the flowers before they went back to decorate their doorways. So you see this painting. This is in the ceiling of this magnificent structure, the Kusum Sarovar architecture. And in the ceiling, there's paintings of Krishna's pastimes. And this is one of those paintings on the ceiling of Krishna with a mustache. Krishna doesn't have a mustache. And his peacock feather. And he's decorating the hair of Srimati Radharani with the flowers. But actually, he doesn't stop there. He does a whole, deity worship. He decorates her hair. Here's some very beautiful paintings. Of course, Radharani's looking in the mirror, not at herself. She's looking at her beloved Krishna. Very beautiful painting. And then after decorating Krishna's hair, he uses different, you see by his right foot down there, little ointments and fragrant oils, and then jewels on her fingers, and a whole array of different ornaments to place on her wrists, and he's deity worship, worshipping Srimati Radharani. And when this worship procedure is finished, the gopis then say, well, that's very nice. Now you've atoned for your offending Srimati Radharani, but what are we going to do? It's so late in the day, we have to go back and decorate. So Krishna said, well, just like I have a gardener costume, I have a gopi costume. I'll go back and decorate Radharani's doorway and she'll win the prize. So they agreed, and Radharani won the prize. Ratnangadam pranay keli kala vilasham. There's 3 more pastimes. This is a pastime of Radha in Varsana becoming angry with Krishna. It's called her Man Leela, or Leela of anger. She pouts. So early in the morning, Vrinda Devi made an arrangement for a meeting between Radha and Krishna. All the parrots relayed the messages. Krishna knew where to go at what time. Radharani knew where to be at the right time. And she waited and waited, and Krishna didn't come. You know, when you're waiting for a bus or waiting for something, time while you're waiting seems like a long time. You know, like that one? What to speak of Radharani waiting for Krishna? Yugayatam nimeshena chakshusha prayasayatam, where one moment seems like years. Krishna was late. So Radha sent one of her messengers to find where is Krishna. She found where is Krishna. Krishna was with Chandravali. And very regrettably, Radha's messenger came back and reported that. And Radha then became very angry, and she went sulking at Mandgar. Those of you who have been to Varsana, it's one of the hills. So she went to Mandgar, and Krishna came looking for Radha, couldn't find Krishna, couldn't find Radha anywhere. Vrinda told her what happened. Radha became angry with you. So when Radha becomes angry, it becomes, Krishna knows, we should know, becomes very difficult to break her anger. But in this particular pastime, Vrinda Devi had a suggestion. Vrinda Devi said, I'm very expert at disguises. Of course, Krishna doesn't need disguises. He can just manifest himself however he likes. But Vrinda Devi got some service. She made a gopi disguise and said, I'll go to where Radha is, and I'll tell Radha that there's this new gopi in Vrindavan, and her name is Shama Saki. Saki means like an assistant to the gopis. Her name is Shama Saki, and she's really good at singing. Is it okay if I bring her here? I know that you're in an unhappy mood, but maybe hearing her singing, you'll become happy again. So Radha agreed. And Shama Saki, Krishna, came before Radha in her sulking mood and then asked Radha what type of music, in this long narration of this raga and these notes and this detail and that detail, and I don't even know what all the terms are. But Krishna knows and Radha knows, so she selected what she wanted to hear. And Shama Saki started to sing. And Shama Saki sang so beautifully that Radha's angry mood changed. And she became very enlivened and said, where did you learn such singing? And Shama Saki said, I've heard your singing, and I'm just learning from you how to sing nicely. And Radharani embraced, I don't know how I can thank you enough for relieving me of this big anxiety, and embraced the Saki. And as she embraced the Saki, she felt ecstatic love erupting in her body, and then she realized, this isn't Shama Saki, this is Shama. This is Krishna. She was very happy, and you can see the gopis are also very happy. This is a painting illustrating something that's found in Nectar of Devotion. The lady with the broom in her hand, that's the mother of Abhimanyu. Her name is Jatila, and Abhimanyu is her son. And in the Leela of Radha and Krishna, it's a long story which we don't have time for just now, but there was this so-called marriage of Krishna to all the young gopis on the occasion of Krishna stealing the calves and cowherd boys, which is a nice pastime, but I'm not going to narrate. So the so-called husband of Radharani was Abhimanyu. And regularly, Krishna would go to the house of Abhimanyu and Jatila and enjoy pastimes with Radharani. In this particular case, he dressed like Abhimanyu, and he made his voice sound just like Abhimanyu. And when Abhimanyu was to come home, Krishna is omniscient, so he went and told Jatila, look out, this rascal, Krishna, he's coming to your home in a disguise, looking like Abhimanyu. Don't let him in. So Jatila, following the advice of her so-called, Krishna in disguise as her son, you see behind Krishna's back is his crown with the peacock feather, standing behind Jatila. And Jatila's not letting her son enter the house. Get out of here, you rascal, you imposter. We know who you are. Forget it, you're not coming into my house. Get out of here. And Abhimanyu thought his mother's gone mad. And then, by use of the mantra upasana process, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur reveals in a book called Brahma Samhita another pastime of pranaya keli kala vilasam, Krishna reveling in pastimes of love. And this is very detailed, most amazing, most elevated pastime. And it goes like this, in summary. Krishna, one day, he became inspired to come to visit the place of Srimati Radharani in Varsana in a different disguise, in the disguise of a goddess, like a celestial goddess. And when Krishna came to Varsana as the celestial goddess, he was in the mood of great sadness, terrible, unbreakable unhappiness. And so the gopis, they saw this new girl in such a sad condition, knowing that Radharani is very compassionate. They brought the girl, the goddess, before Srimati Radharani, but the goddess stayed off at a distance, looking down, very sad. So there's a whole long discussion of Radharani trying to cheer up this very sad young gopi who said nothing, who wouldn't respond, looking down, tears coming down her cheeks. And Radharani tried this and tried that and tried this, said this, very amusing things and cajoling things, suggesting that my father, Vrishabhanu, has given some special oil, and I think if I massage this oil on the body of this young gopi, certainly whatever ail is harming her will be cured. And then Radharani said, is it possible that the sadness that you're feeling is you have heard the flute of Shyamasundara, and hearing the sound of Shyamasundara's flute, your heart is now broken into many pieces. The goddess looked up, lifted her head slightly and said, I'd like to reveal to you why I have come. I am your worshipper. In the heavenly kingdom, we also hear Krishna's flute. And when we hear Krishna's flute, we become enormously attracted to Krishna's flute. But my understanding is, I wanted to understand what is the attractiveness of Krishna's flute. So I came here. And Radha said, you're very intelligent. Very few pursue the question, why is everyone so attracted to Krishna's flute? Please tell me what you have understood. He said, my heart is broken. I came, let me disclose why I have come. I came attracted to the sound of Krishna's flute, and I went to a place called Vangshivat, and Krishna was playing upon his flute, and I saw how your loving attraction was awakened, and then suddenly Krishna just left you and went to some other place with some other gopi, and I cannot understand how you can be attracted in love with this terrible person, Shyamasundara. He's asking her questions about her love for him. That is why I have come. I don't want to see you have anything to do with him. He's so unreliable and he's so despicable and he does all these bad things, and I'd like to break your love for him. That is why I have come. And Radha smiles and says, you're very intelligent. Let me share with you the nature of love. So it's a beautiful description. Radharani is describing the essence of love and her love for Krishna. Krishna wanted to hear this, so he performed this pastime. I know all about Krishna. And my loving of Krishna cannot be broken by anything. Because let me share something with you. Krishna is in my heart, and I am in Krishna's heart. In this way we are inseparable. And all these things that Krishna does that to you look harsh and cruel, it's just part of the love of Krishna for me and my love for Krishna. It's not possible that Krishna can leave my heart, or that I can leave Krishna's heart, even when he does the things that you say he does that look like he doesn't love. Then I forget the question that the goddess asks, but there's some other question that leads Radha to then say, let me disclose something even more confidential. No one understands this, but I will share this with you because you seem so receptive and able to understand deep subject matters. Actually, Krishna and I are one. There are two forms, but we're actually one entity. So not only Krishna is in my heart and I am in Krishna's heart, we're one entity. So there's no question of anything abandoning love for Krishna. This is my, you came to hear this disclosure, this is my disclosure. And the goddess said, now I am very happy. And got up and left, suddenly. And Radharani is now in this mood of appreciating the depth of her love for Krishna, and why. And then she wants to thank the goddess who brought this out. But the goddess has gone. And so she asked, where has this goddess gone? I want to thank her. Oh, I missed something very important. The goddess said, well, if you think, if I don't doubt your word, but evidence is stronger than words. So if your words are true, then just by your meditating upon Krishna, Krishna will come. So can you do that? Radharani agrees. She sits in complete meditation upon Krishna. In full vision of the other gopis, Krishna removes his disguise as a goddess and is standing before Radharani as Shyamasundar. What an amazing pastime. And Radharani opens her eyes, and there is Shyamasundar. And she's feeling loving ecstasy, seeing Shyamasundar before her. And then she appreciates that she appreciates what this goddess has done. Opened her heart and brought Krishna and so forth. Where's the goddess? I want to thank her. She's in the next room. She left. And Radharani goes to see the goddess, but there's no goddess because Krishna is there. So, Prema Samputa is one example of unlimited examples of Krishna's pranaya keli kala vilasam, Krishna's reveling, enjoying in most amazing pastimes of love with all the residents of Vrindavan. Part of our Vaishnav calendar is the Julan festival, again commemorating the pastime of Krishna on swing. And we place the deity on the swing and swing Radha and Krishna. And so it's commemorating that, but if one has depth of love, it's actually Radha and Krishna on the swing. Like these beautiful paintings depicting these pastimes. Or Krishna's boat pastimes. The last line, Shamam Tribhangalalitam Niyata Prakasham. Niyata Prakasham. Krishna eternally manifests himself in this beautiful form of threefold bending feature, just like this painting shows, and in our deity depiction of Krishna also, Shamam Chibangalalitam Niyata Prakasham. In fact, most of the paintings that you see of Krishna, sometimes he's sitting and so forth, but when he's standing, it's this very delightful position. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Hare Krishna. So this is the first 3 verses of the prayers: Krishna's abode, Krishna's form, Krishna's pastimes, shared with us by Lord Brahma in this wonderful literature, Brahma Samhita. So any comments or questions from anyone? Yes. Here comes the mic. Stand by. Don't go far away. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, I could count on you for a question or 2 or 3.
I have a question regarding the conversation that we had yesterday about the word Sambrahma. And in Valmiki Ramayana, the first...
Volume what?
In Valmiki Ramayana, the first verse that Hanuman says is Sambrahma Tyajitam Yesha. He tells Sugriv not to worry or to discard all perplexity. And
Discard all?
Confusion or fear.
Confusion or fear.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the translation given for Sambrahma. And how is that translation, how is that Sambrahma mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana different from the one mentioned in Brahma Samhita?
I'd have to look at what, to process your question, I'd have to look at the Sanskrit carefully before answering. So maybe after the whole morning is over, you can give me the reference, I can look at the other reference, and during our next, like this evening's question answer, give me a little time to understand the question clearly. Okay?
It's in Kishkinda Kand, the 2nd chapter.
You put it together on a piece of paper, provide it to me, and I'll make a proper response. I'll try. Anything else? All the way in the back?
Maharaj, this is from the last session we had last year. So I think towards the end of the discussion, like towards the last verses of Brahma Samhita, you were explaining that though there are some material desires, when one engages in Krishna's service, he gets purified. Like where Krishna is speaking to Lord Brahma.
You listened very well.
So, but in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the idea is that one who is bewildered or one who has material desires, he cannot come to Krishna. So, like these two look like different ideas.
They're not 2 different ideas. They're different stages. Supposing someone has a material desire, and they like their material desire, that person cannot go to Krishna. Supposing another person has a material desire, they'd like to become free from the material desire and go to Krishna. That's Lord Brahma, and he wants. And there's a means. And he goes to Krishna. Take the microphone away from him. In the front up here? Oh, you have one, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. There's a question online from Bhaktin Sanya. She asked, You had mentioned that Radha and Krishna have different forms but are one entity.
Yes.
Why have different forms if they are both just Krishna?
Why not? For the purpose of love, two forms. The object of love and the abode of love, the one that feels love for the other. It's one entity in two forms for the sake of love. And then Radha expands so that love expands. Radha expands unlimitedly in unlimited numbers of gopis. We're going to hear about that in text 37. For the purpose of expanding love, and love is Krishna's happiness expanding. Although he's unlimited, he who is unlimited is ever expanding through the agency of his own potencies. In this case, the internal pleasure potency. That's why. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I was thinking about yesterday's lecture in which we discussed the Gajendra pastime.
Yes.
And in one of the purports, the slide you showed, in that Prabhupada said that everyone should have some mantra so that they can remember it at the time of death.
Well, not exactly, he didn't say that, but go ahead.
Yes, and I was thinking that...
He's playing with the volume, just keep talking.
Okay, so in the hexagonal in Golok,
Yes.
there is the mantra
Yeah,
Om Klem
Yes,
Govindai
yeah.
Krishnai. And last time we said that one should not chant this mantra because one is, if in a bona fide succession, then they can chant it, otherwise there will not be any effect for that chanting. So my question or concern is, at one time Prabhupada is saying that one should have some kind of a mantra to chant. Can
we have
just,
them, Govinda prayers.
Right, so can we just chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra?
Yes.
Or-
But we can just chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Lots of people do that. Lots of people don't do even that. But the chanting of the Mahamantra, in addition, he's recommending, so how can I say otherwise? He's recommending others. He gives two samples. We're working with one of them right now, this seminar, so that we can understand what they are and enter into. So text 30, for example, is like the one that's from text 3. Same type, but it's different in that it's accessible to anyone. Whereas that Gopal mantra is specifically to be received at the time. It's a Gayatri mantra that we receive at initiation. So one should chant these Govinda prayers for now. And then at the time of initiation, Brahminical initiation, one will receive other mantras. And then one can chant those mantras too.
So should we include more mantras, or these mantras are sufficient?
These mantras are sufficient. However, Gayatri initiation or second initiation is also very nice. It's special in that these are mantras given in disciplic succession. Is that all right? What's the puzzle? I don't get the puzzle.
I was thinking to include the hexagonal mantra,
Yeah.
and one should not
For now,
chant.
you as you said, that I said, for now, don't do that. Take these nice Govinda prayers and do that. Later, you'll receive those other mantras, and then you chant those too. Just chronologically, focus on this now and that later.
That was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the wonderful descriptions. I had a couple of questions. Okay. The first one is, as we understand, as we hear the beautiful pastimes of Krishna, then as we, how do we make sure we don't take it cheaply? Or because it's very sweet to hear, but a lot of times we hear or we talk about the tattva, which is the difference between mind and soul and the body, etc. So we focus on that, and but when we hear these, that's extremely sweet to hear. But how do we ensure that we don't cross the line that we become sahajiya kind of, or
Well,
basically take it cheaply?
A few things in response to that question. One is, one must be and should continue to become firmly grounded in Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means knowledge of the relationship of all things with Krishna. So one's eagerness for hearing should never go away from Sambandha Gyan thinking, oh, I've learned that. I want something new or higher or something like that. If the mind starts going in that direction, that's quite risky. Another, the brake pedal or the caution area is not just theoretical but practical realization of the identity of the self as the soul, not the body, in Prabhupada's words in Bhagavad Gita purport, beyond even the chance that one can engage in activities of sense gratification, pursuing fruitive activities. So one should cultivate that in addition to Sambandha Gyan, the practical realization of my spiritual identity, the spiritual conception should be so firmly rooted and grounded. So, what I'm saying here, both of these are paying attention to the ABCs, even in advanced stages. And a third is wholesome association. Part of when people get into this, the likelihood of going off in a tangent that may be dangerous, it's made easier when one is minus proper association. So stay always in proper association. So if when you start heading for the ditch, somebody can bang you on the head and say, get back in the middle of the road. Those are some cautions. Something else?
Can the second point I didn't understand.
Okay.
The practical realization that you said of spiritual identity. The second point which you mentioned of the three, practical realization of spiritual identity.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that
Okay.
one.
Read the purport of 241 Bhagavad Gita in the last paragraph. Early in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness doesn't say love of God or going back to Godhead or something. He says is attaining the state of realization of one's true spiritual identity other than the body. Because you can't go to step 2 without step 1, being secure. Then he repeats it at the end, like the in summary kind of message, in conclusion. One should practice Krishna consciousness in such a way that there's not even the possibility of being engaged in fruitive activities in pursuit of sense gratification. Not like just tolerate, or not act on, but beyond, to such a stage of absorption in the internal potency that the external potency can't touch you by the protection of the internal potency. The spiritual potency, the potency of devotional service. Yeah?
Can I ask my second question?
Okay, I thought that was, go ahead. Yeah.
So when we talk about chanting Mahamantra, in Mahamantra we are advised to only hear the mantra and not really imagine any like.
Well, we certainly can, and we're not advised to imagine anything at any time, but we're to hear the mantra and meditate on its meaning. Prabhupada has given us the meaning. Mantras accompanied with meditating on its meaning. Hear the sound.
Okay.
And what is the meaning as we're hearing the sound? Please engage me in your service. It's a call for awakening of our service constitutional position. So it's broad. And then comes specific. Service to Krishna in which mood? What is these other mantras? What is our spiritual form? So we combine the two. Mahamantra and these other mantras, Gayatri mantras, or like this. One enhances the other. Both ways. It's something similar to what I said earlier. These verses of Brahma Samhita, they're stimulations of ecstatic love. That's high. Ecstatic love is high. So we do that in combination with the service mood, Mahamantra. One in place of the other. You know, I have chanted the Mahamantra and now I'm graduating. Not like that. One enhances the other.
The idea is similar, that in Mahamantra also we hear and meditate on the mood of service, and here also when you said
But
Venam
yeah,
Karanam,
the mood, in a pervasive sense, like, please engage me in your service.
Yeah.
Krishna, may I become attracted to only you, vyavasayatmika buddhi. Let my attraction for other things or distraction from you be taken away. It's focus through sound on the object of love from the position of the abode of love or the would-be abode of love. So that's the medium is service that then awakens and blossoms and becomes matured in some expression of love. The medium of that expression is devotional service, and the insight is this spontaneous soul's jubilation towards Krishna of a particular rasa, just the mature stage. Okay, looks like that's it. Yes? Okay.
The first question is from Virajita Singh Mataji.
From who?
Virajita Singh Mataji.
Okay.
She says, you mentioned yantra along with mantra. What yantra should we focus on? And also, should all Govinda prayers be chanted every day?
Well, we don't engage in the same process that Lord Brahma engaged in. I mentioned, we engage in deity worship, specifically. This yantra is like a deity, because it's depicting the abode of the Supreme Lord and all of his associates and everything that goes on in the abode of the Lord. That's a means which we were not given. I am unaware of any instruction Prabhupada ever gave about yantra utilization in our process. Although in Mayapur they have yantras on the Nrsimha altar. So it's bona fide, but it's not prescribed for us. Deity worship is prescribed for us. So along with our chanting and hearing, we engage in deity worship. And the other question, should these be chanted, all the prayers every day? That's individual. I don't chant all the prayers every day, but I regularly chant the prayers, and there's certain prayers that somehow just they appear, especially by becoming, as I have become familiar with them. Just becomes part of your consciousness, the prayers. That's my experience anyway. Yes.
The second question is from Anand Vadvani Prabhu. He says, Maharaj, I'm curious to know the meaning of klim in the center of yantra.
It's Radha Krishna. Very specific. Look in the purport of text 3 Brahma Samhita and you'll find the answer.
And he also says, for some reason, this word actually bothers me being in the center.
Well, tell Krishna about your... Radha and Krishna are at the center. That's the way it is. Okay.
Maharaj, I have one more question.
Okay.
In Bhagavad Gita 11:8, Sri Krishna blesses Arjun with divine eyes so that the latter can see Krishna's cosmic form, right? And you mentioned that if we were to chant the mantras, or actually the Goswamis were able to view the entire pastime of
They
Krishna.
would participate in.
So didn't they need special eyes?
Yeah, yes, we'll hear about that in text number 36, I think. Premanjana Charita Bhaktivilochanena. Stand by, we'll get there. It's the eye of the soul. And that's how the experiencing of Krishna's form, not these eyes, the eye of the soul. You'll hear. We'll get there.
Why did Arjun need those divine eyes?
Why not?
If he
Krishna
could
gave him to him. Others, it doesn't give an indication on the battlefield that others saw this universal form. Arjun saw. Obviously also Sanjaya saw, because that's what the microphone movement was, right? Sanjaya saw, because Krishna gave him, because he's telling Dhritarashtra what's going on.
And Hanuman also saw, because he was on the banner of...
And not only that, you know, in Mahabharata, in the assembly where Krishna came to give the peace message and Duryodhana rejected it, Duryodhana's plan was attack Krishna, grab him, put him in jail, and everyone will become defeated because Krishna is going to be, you know, in our captivity. They'll become very unenthusiastic. What a dumb move. So Krishna knew, and Krishna exhibited a partial manifestation of the same thing that Arjuna saw. And, you like details, and according to our acharyas, what Mother Yashoda saw within the mouth of Krishna when she was looking for dirt was the same thing that Krishna saw. The description is different, but according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it was the same thing. Her reaction was different than Arjuna's reaction because her bhava is different than Arjuna's bhava. Meditate on that one for a while. Okay, so we're going to end and have breakfast. What time will come back?
Schedule says 9:30, but whatever you like now, because we won't be able to.
How much time
breakfast.
do you all need for breakfast? Should we come back at 10? Is that good? 10? That's not too short of a time? 10 is good?
10 should
Okay.
be fine.
See you all at 10.
Haribol.